Hey, live on Pat's Soundbytes Unplugged podcast, keeping new music alive on the radio throughout the world, not only in the United States, but everywhere throughout the globe. There is fantastic new music like this one. This gentleman to my, well, I think he's by my left or my right. I don't know, Chas Cronk next to me here. He's a composer, he's a singer, he's a songwriter, but you might know him as a great bass player of the cool band of rockers, the Strawbs. How are you, Chas?
I'm very well, Pat. Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, I got this record from the CD from Dave, and I've been starting to play a couple of my favorite tracks on it, and it's all good. How are you surviving with this whole COVID headache? Are you okay?
Oh yeah, I mean, I seem to have escaped it all, really. But
You and me both. I'm like washing my hands.
yeah, I do the same.
It's like common sense. I mean, I wash my hands all the time. I'm like, I don't get it. But I know there's a lot of people that have suffered or have lost friends,
Absolutely.
what have you. So pray for them and pray that this whole thing goes away. So, Chas, I always start with I like to find out a little bit more about yourself. Of where did you find your love for music? Was mom and dad music folks? Was it did you watch the Beatles over in the UK?
Well, yeah. All of the above. Definitely.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. My grandfather was a church organist and choir leader in Ireland. My mother's side of the family were all from Ireland. They were very musical. Obviously, with him being he was a composer as well. He even composed pieces at the on the Somme in the First World War. I mean, the guy. So he bought me my first little mini piano when I was a kid, and generally the Irish side of my family definitely got me into the music. Taking me to see friends of their show bands, Irish show bands, when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And as I got a bit older, early teens, my mother's sisters. The whole family was over from Ireland by then. My Auntie Mary took me along to see the Beatles at Hammersmith Odeon, West Side Story, the original.
Oh wow!
American cast and things like that. Yes, there was music definitely kind of going around me, and of course, growing up as I did at the time with the Beatles happening, Stones, all the explosion of R&B bands here in West London. It was lots of inspirations.
Very cool. Did you play in school?
I'd started playing guitar kind of early on. My sister was 8 years older than me, so she'd be coming back playing Elvis Presley records, I'd never heard of. But then, when she was out, I'd cheekily be listening to the record player and things. And being 8 years older, she was already kind of, she was 18 when I was 10, sort of thing. So I was being influenced by all the stuff she was bringing into the house to listen to. So
how did you? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, saying plenty of influences going on. But yeah, I started with a school band, went on to become a college band and et cetera, et cetera,
How did you get on the Strawbs?
Well, Strawbs was a West London band originally here. And funny enough, my mother worked with Dave Cousins, the Strawbs main man.
Wow.
They worked in the same office for the local health authority and knew each other very well. And my mother would come back telling me, "Oh, that Dave Cousins and his Strawbs, they're doing this, that, and the other." and vice versa. My mother would be telling her about what I was doing. It gradually went on, but I guess the common denominator was Rick Wakeman, and I'd met Rick when he was still at the Royal College of Music. I was already dabbling. I was signed by a company that I was recording studios with, and I got Rick involved in that. And his session career just took off after that, because he was obviously a prodigal, fantastic player even as a kid, sort of thing. So Rick Wakeman was a common denominator in the sense that he went on to go through the Strawbs. He was a member of the Strawbs for a bit and then left to join Yes. And then when he did his first solo album, Six Wives of Henry VIII, he got me in to play on a few tracks. And on one of those tracks was he had got Dave Cousins and Dave Lambert in from Strawbs and that's how we really properly met. And a few months later, I moved to my first flat in Strawberry Hill here, not very far from where I live now, and within a few weeks, 2 weeks actually, I got a call saying would I be interested in playing with Strawbs. So lots of unbelievable tie-ups which would take ages to explain, but
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool to watch, to know somebody like Rick back in the day, and to see the success that, obviously with, even the Strawbs and Yes. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen Rick and Yes throughout the years of the 70s and the 80s, and my goodness, that is cool. So talk to me about this wonderful CD that I got in my hand called Liberty. Well, where is it? I got this. There we go. There we go. I love the album cover. I love the idea.
Yeah,
I get a lot of positivity, Chas, listening to the tracks. I'm a lyric guy, so I try to maybe not exactly what you were thinking. Well, that's what makes music. It's up to the interpretation of the listener, but what you gravitate to. But I felt a lot of love, a lot of freedom, a lot of go out in the sea and live your life, a lot of positivity with this this CD.
I mean, you mentioned COVID at the start of a little chat, and that it probably wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had the time in lockdown to actually even consider doing it. I started recording some stuff, and Strawbs were scheduled to do a new album, which we were going to have to do remotely because of the lockdowns and COVID. And I'd started writing some stuff, and a couple of things I thought, well, this is not quite right for Strawbs, might be, but not sure. And I put the title track "Liberty" up on Facebook, and I'm not much on social media, I have to admit. I'm a bit of a old-fashioned that way, but it was very popular. It got thousands of plays. I did a little video to go with it. It got thousands of plays, and a chap called John Edwards from Renaissance Records in America, down in Phoenix in Arizona, he got in contact with me and said, I love this, have you got any more? So I sent him a couple of other things that I had lying around, and he instantly suggested doing an EP originally, and he came up with the artwork. The artwork is all down to him. John Edwards did a great job, but he had listened to 2 or 3 of the early tracks I sent, and I think he kind of went off and won and came up with that artwork, which I absolutely love, as you say, so but the EP project became an LP project, and lockdown 1 turned into lockdown 2 and lockdown 3, if you like. So I had time to the Strawbs project to kind of pretty much finish by then, and so I had time to come do a whole album's worth of it. And I wanted the songs to be all super positive, super kind of uplifting, nothing negative or down, because it was just a counter, really, the kind of the initial negativity that went around all the news channels when we were all about to reach oblivion with COVID and everything, So I just wanted to do an uplifting thing that was songs to inspire, hopefully, and just encourage and empower, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't even, Chaz, I can't even put on the news anymore. It's just it's like there's nothing. I mean, I wish there was something more positive, but it's always somebody got killed. This guy, going on in Ukraine, and and then now the Queen passed away, and it's like, is there anything just positive? Can we all just get along, Chaz? Can we all
I know.
It just drives me crazy. I fell in love. Well, here's the 3 songs that I fell in love with. Everyone knows, Into the Light and Away. And I like songs. What caught my attention listening to the CD a bunch of times, I like songs that it almost ends and then it picks up again. You think I want to say Away. It was like, it's just almost, you think it's almost over, and then it has a second breath, has another heartbeat, and it keeps going. I dig that type of stuff.
Fantastic. And I'm glad you like Away as well, because a few people have picked up on it, but most people are going for things like Into the Light and the title track Liberty, and Slipping Downstream seems to be quite popular as well. But I liked Away. I thought if I'd had more time, I could have taken it a bit further, but it was one of the last tracks to do, so I had to get a move on.
Yeah, no, and you got a couple of instrumentals. Chad, let me ask you, what makes a song an instrumental? I mean, obviously you can put lyrics on everything, but sometimes the flow and what you're hearing, sometimes it maybe just doesn't need words, right? Like Flying Free.
Well, Flying Free, yeah. I recorded that. I was experimenting with guitar tunings, so I'd recorded the piece, and I did hear it as a song. I was kind of getting the lyrics to it. But to be honest, when we came near putting the whole album together, and as you know, your time compromised by vinyl, and it was going to be released on vinyl as well, so you could only have X amount of minutes per side of a vinyl LP. And I suddenly realised I had eight quite long songs. I needed 2 shorter ones, and I thought, well, the Flying Free is actually working to me as an instrumental, as a kind of just mood piece. So I kind of kept it to the length it is because it needed to fit onto the vinyl, and similarly with Reverie on the side 2, if you like,
Right.
similar thing. Really, it was an instrumental piece I'd had lying around for a while that I completely reworked and rejigged with my new studio now, and again they were designed to kind of both be kind of bookends to the album. Well, the first one bookend, and just finish the lyrical content off, and just Flying Free to me meant that there was it left you thinking, oh, there's more to come, and of course side 2 was still to come. But Reverie, I kind of wanted it just to be drift into kind of the ether, if you like, into the angel realm or whatever.
How much of a challenge? I know you played all the instruments, and you have Dave and Dave fill in there on a couple of tracks. But how much of a challenge?
Well, I guess it was, but I didn't have too much option at the time, being locked down, and it was just home here with my long-suffering wife as acting music.
We all had one of them, right?
But she really acted, she was a great sounding board, because that was the main problem, was working on your own. I love collaboration so much. But on the other hand, it was an interesting exercise, if you know what I mean. I really wanted to do something there. And so, yeah, I mean, the wonders of modern recording meant I could do it. I mean, obviously I play guitar as well as bass guitar, so I was able to put acoustics on and electrics, but I'm not the greatest kind of lead guitarist in the world. So when Dave Lambert had already put his part on the Splash of Blue that he played on, because it had been recorded prior to the lockdown, and Dave Bainbridge after lockdowns was just around here one day as I'm finishing the album off and said, I'd love to put a solo on the end of that. And I wish you'd put a solo on the end of every one, but no. So he just picked up that guitar, the Strat on the wall you see behind me there, and instantly put a blistering solo on the end of Slipping Downstream. So for that, I'm grateful. And a friend put live drums on another one for me, which he did remotely. And other than that, I was playing drums or using samples, getting a groove, myself here. So yeah, it was all. It was kind of challenging to do it all yourself, but I always remember Todd Rundgren, going back to when he did Something Anything, that album, going back to my youth really, and he played pretty much everything on that himself there, and I always wanted to try and do that because I loved what he did there.
I like the flow of the CD, Chas. I like it starting with Liberty. I like that you can listen to the whole thing and it doesn't go all over the place. It's got a very good theme and a following. I really enjoyed that. Looking at my notes here, do we expect a Chas solo album number 2? Is there a follow up?
Well, yeah, I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I haven't had much of a chance to sort of really concentrate on the songs, but yeah, I think I've got to try and come up with another one now, haven't I?
Yeah, I mean, it did the first one. Now it's like, okay, I did it. Now it's trying to find the time. Now that things are back to normal, to find the time to do it.
I do have the time really, in the sense that Strawbs are off the road entirely at the moment because of Dave Cousins' health issues.
Okay.
So I do have the time. So I need to get my head kind of into it. And actually, the brilliant thing about the lockdowns was the freedom it gave you to do it, the space, the time. There was nothing else to do. Couldn't go down to the pub at the end of the road because it wasn't open. You couldn't do all the things, and I had plenty of time to concentrate on it. So I need to get into that kind of headspace again.
Right.
But I have got quite a few ideas going around. But very soon, I think I'll sit down and try to formulate the follow up, if you like.
There you go. How does the songwriting process start, Chad? You have the idea. You have it's all up here. Is it therapeutic for you to express it and get it out? I mean, all musicians, like, you're in a great band, but there's always something that you want to do that is different. That why not do it? Playing another.
But the songwriting process for me starts very much on the guitar, really. Generally, I've worked with a lot of guys like Dave Cousins, for instance, and other old partners of mine. A very lyric based. I mean, Dave would write a lyric without even note of music. He has an idea of the meter, the rhythm of it all, and everything, but not necessarily the musical song. Whereas I start from the other way around. I start from the song, and then kind of melodies and lyrics suggest themselves to me, if you like, and then I try and take a step back at whatever point, look at it, and is this any good? Should we develop it further? And then I try and make it into the song. But it usually always starts with the musical aspect for me, mainly on the guitar. So.
I got myself. I'm not, as I mentioned before, Chaz, I'm not a musician, but I got a lot of listeners that I don't ask enough gear questions. So talk to me about your wonderful bass. How did you gravitate towards the bass? What's your favorite, maybe, bass riff? Was it Paul McCartney? Was it?
Yeah, he big influence. But I also, when I was a kid, young teenager, really, and like I mentioned before, Hammersmith Odeon wasn't very far up the road from where I lived, which was a wonderful venue. Still is a venue, but although it has a name change now. But you could go, the Beatles. I'd go see there once, but the Beach Boys saw there 2 or 3 times. But also I was very influenced by Stax Atlantic and Motown when I was a kid, because it was
funk, right? That.
Well, that's it.
That groove.
Motown bass players were just wonderful, and never quite got that style. I'd like to think I kind of absorbed a little bit of all the various styles, but yeah, the tremendous influence on me, the groove they had there, and then the melody that I learned, I think, from my grandfather, from his choirs and organ playing. I always viewed the bass guitar as kind of the bottom end of an orchestra. I like the parts to be melodic. When you hear kind of double basses and cellos in a big orchestra, they can be almost doing a tune themselves. And funny enough, a lot of the Motown things were like that as well. McCartney, of course, was like that, but they played such a melodic thing going on there, and while grooving at the same time. So I guess I started playing guitar, but I gravitated to bass quite soon with the school bands I was in. And bass wise, I've got a Fender Precision that I bought probably when I was about 18, which was second hand then, which I love. And then I got paranoid about taking it on the road because we had a couple of guitars get broken. Traveling, and I use an American company called Dean. I've got a wonderful Dean electric bass, and 2 acoustics of theirs, and an acoustic bass of Dean's, and so I haven't got a bazillion bass guitars. That's for sure. I've got two electric ones and one electric acoustic sort of thing. So, but yeah,
I got to one of my first interviews back in the day was Verdine White of Earth, Wind and Fire.
Oh my God.
And I interviewed him, and then that night I got to meet him, see the show and meet him. And watching that man jump around the stage with that bass, I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
he was like, he was like one. You could almost feel every bass note, like he was part of the instrument, which
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
really opened my eyes to it. And I just recently saw a band, Stone Temple Pilots, and
Really?
Robert DeLeo. I mean, I'm 20 feet, 40 feet away from him. I met Robert a few times, been blessed to meet him. And he's a tall man. He's got a long bass, and he's moving around like another one that you can almost feel it. He's part of the instrument. And I can't ever say that I've been on a ton of shows that it's really caught my attention, but you can
Yeah.
almost feel it and now I spend more and more time when I listen to a song. I really tried to observe each instrument separately if you can.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I hear the bass come across, I know it's really produced well. Sometimes the bass is like the lead guitar takes over and you can't hear anything else, depending
Yeah.
on how produced it was or how mixed it was. But I look forward to hearing the bass, and obviously you come across pretty well in your CD. But yeah, not a musician, but now that I've been in the business for quite a while and
Yeah. Yeah.
having blessed to meet great folks like yourself, I have a better understanding and appreciation of learning. Everybody said Keith Richards, the open G. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about? And then they explained it to me the whole, Keith Richards, or like even seeing Robert, a buddy of mine plays guitar, and I'm like, what makes him so special? And he says, he just makes these notes and changes them into other notes real quick that you can't even, you're like staring at it going, what is he doing? And the sound is like, another guy I used to see all the time, Chris Squire, God rest his soul. I mean, a beast on bass guitar. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Do
Absolutely.
you remember your first concert you went to, Chas?
That I went to.
Yeah, that was but I ended up becoming a big name. Besides, I think you said you saw the Beatles once.
I did, yeah. Well, I guess the first show I remember was with my mother and her sisters, the Irish gang, if you like, who took me to see the Mick Delahunty show band, who were over from Clonmel in Ireland, over playing in West London here. And I was probably only about 8 or 9 because I remember being excited because I was up after midnight, which I'd never.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, just seeing a band like that was completely, wasn't expecting anything like that. And I was a bit hooked then. But, I mean, the first big shows, I guess, were the ones at Hammersmith Odeon that we went to see. The Beatles are memorable because I was probably only about 13 then, I guess, or something. And that was swiftly followed by the school band that was in. And my pal there, Sandy Lowenthal, he and I went up to see all sorts of bands in town after that when we could get away. And we had some clubs locally, the Ricky Tick Club here in Hounslow. I mean, you could go and see Hendrix playing there in this little club, which we did once. Saw him put his guitar through. It was very low roof on the stage, and he put his guitar through the through the kind of polystyrene roof that was there. I was lucky to be
My
in there
brothers,
when
my
there was a lot
brother,
going on.
not to cut you off, my brother is a big fan of Rory Gallagher.
Oh my God!
Oh my God, he's like
Yeah.
incredible. And
Yeah.
I got to interview Vivian Campbell of Def Leppard. And
Oh right.
he was a Northern Ireland guy, I believe, and Ricky Warwick and Joe Elliott and Brian Johnson, AC/DC. No, there's a lot of great. Well, Thin Lizzy. I mean, man,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like that incredible. Well,
Yeah.
where can everybody purchase your CD, Chas? Can you go to your website or go to Renaissance Records? How does that all work?
For sure, Renaissance Records. Sorry, Renaissance Renaissance Records, which is RenaissanceRecordsUS.com. That's the way to do it. I mean, it's been a slight problem for a lot of people on this side of the Atlantic here for that, because they look at the cost there, but the cost of shipping doubles it. So Renaissance have just kindly agreed to sell me some that I can shift here. So I think in a month or two's time, I'll have some copies of the vinyl and CD for the good people of the UK or Europe, which will be much cheaper shipping wise for them. But for anyone over in the States there, yeah, directly from Renaissance Records probably is definitely the best way to go.
Oh, excellent. I enjoy it. I'm going to keep playing a bunch of tracks and keep supporting you. And I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I have.
So. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
Well, you let me know when you're doing number 2 so we can get you back. And certainly prayers for our good man, Dave Cousins. We'd love to see the Strawbs back over here in the States.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good mind and everything like that. And we want to do a new Strawbs album, but yeah, he just needs to get strength back a little bit. But he's definitely will never stop being creative, that man, that's for sure.
Well, we love to get him back here to the States so we can see you guys.
Oh, I'm missing being over this, especially with the autumn coming up. It feels strange. We always toured there in the fall, as you say, so.
Well, it's all good. Thank you for your time, Chas, today. Chas Cronk. It's called Liberty. Go get it today. Where is it? There it is. It's called Liberty. Go check it out today. A great musician, a great bass player, and now an awesome singer-songwriter. So you got to go check it out. It doesn't get any better than this, keeping new music alive throughout the world, even in the UK. Right here on Pat Soundbytes Unplugged podcast. Go check it out and get it today.